Hello everyone, my name is Chase Blanchard, and this is how I imagined, created, and innovated in an ever-changing world through the creation of our museum exhibit that went over the Columbian Exchange. Started by creating research source guides that helped us with getting our information on the Columbian Exchange, so that way we could generate an original idea for something that we want to present on our topic while also supporting our thesis. As you can see on this slide, I was responsible for handling 2 websites that gave the positive and negative benefits of the Columbian Exchange for both the Old and New World. Because of these source guides that we created, we were able to strategically and effectively generate ideas that could then be discussed by our group in order to make a final decision on what we wanted to present in our exhibit. We went through all different ideas and plans for what would and wouldn't work by asking each other open-ended questions and committing to a final idea. This led to our first idea, which was a card game. This brings us to design and refinement. Like I said, our first idea that we pushed forward with was to create a card game that would be both a hands-on activity while also being informational about the Columbian Exchange and its effects on Old and New World. How the game would work is you would flip a card, and your continent, which is either Old World or New World, would be granted with an advantage or disadvantage. You would then remove a certain amount of people from the board that your card indicates you to do, or you would add a certain number of people. LaTroy and I were responsible for writing down the card ideas, as you can see here. We had to display the knowledge, think about how many people would be eliminated or added for each card, and the amount of turns that should happen before the game ends. However, after a group discussion and an important feed-forward conversation with Mr. Nicoletti, we had made the conclusion to move on from this idea and create something entirely different. This is because our idea had too much of a game feel to it and didn't display enough information in order to back up our main argument or thesis. The whole idea of it also sounded very boring and repetitive, as really the only thing you were doing was drawing a card and either adding or removing players. This was no problem for our group though, as we persevered and moved on to a new and improved design and plan. This demonstrates design and refinement because we had to scratch our main idea for an entirely new one, requiring lots of hard work and perseverance and to get back on track. Our second idea now brings us to exploration and risk-taking. Our second and newly sought-out idea was to have a map of North America and Europe that showed the trade routes by cutting out the part of the paper map that lined up with the trade routes, and also to have moving boats that indicated the directions of those trade routes, while also revealing the information as you pulled it across. Our knowledge that was under the map helps support our thesis on how the Old World was affected in a more beneficial way compared to the New World. Once again, however, we came up with another conclusion that this idea was not going to work either. While our information was now correctly backing up our main argument, now we had an issue with the design of our idea. When we pulled the boat across to reveal all the information was being pushed out of the side of the map. This demonstrates exploration and risk-taking because we had to come up with a new risky idea in a crunch time matter that was able to fix our previous problems with our first build while also finding and exploring new solutions to improving our design. For creative production, we needed to find a way to improve our project beyond the original idea that we had for the paper and boats. To try and fix this problem with our second build, we asked Mr. Henkin for any kind of advice that he may have for our issue. He suggested we create a continuous looped paper that went under the map like a conveyor belt. This idea worked much better as it made the overall design of it much cleaner and easier to understand, thus giving us our third idea in creating our exhibit. This became our final design for our project and what we decided to display as the final product. This is an example of creative production because of the improvements that we had made from our original paper boat idea to the other. While our third idea was nearly identical to our last, as we still displayed nearly the same information, our only difference was the way we were displaying it. Instead of using the boat to reveal information as we pulled it across, we were now using a looped belt of paper. This minor improvement that we'd made to our final product elevated it compared to the original idea, as we ended up creating an exhibit with hands-on activity, information that helps with the support of our thesis, and a balance of hard work, originality, and inventiveness that heavily supports our imagining, creating, and innovation in an ever-changing world. Through this project of creating a museum exhibit on the Columbian Exchange, I made myself a man for tomorrow through using divergent thinking and design thinking strategies that generated new approaches to problems that needed to be solved. Thank you for listening.